Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening to my show. This is the second episode of the Cricket Judge podcast. I'd like to welcome an ex-England Test cricketer and a legend of the county cricket, Jason Gallian. He played for Lancashire, Nottinghamshire, Essex, and he also played for Oxford University. His career spanned nearly 2 decades. Thank you for coming on, Jason. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, Dipesh. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, keeping well during lockdown?
Yeah, it's been okay. Obviously, the first lockdown was pretty tough.
Yeah.
But I work at a private school, independent school, so I'm back into routine with 500 children, which is pretty good actually.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, because you're the director of cricket at Felsted, isn't it?
That's right.
Yes.
Felsted is North Essex. Yeah. So I do lots of roles there, master of none, but yeah, the cricket's the main job.
Jack of all trades. Excellent. Brilliant. Well, thank you, Jason. It's a great opportunity to speak to you about your cricketing experiences. So let's start from the beginning. So obviously you're clearly an intelligent man as you studied at the Keble College in Oxford University, but you went down the cricketing route. So how did you get into cricket?
Well, you probably can tell from my accent, I've got an Australian background. And I went through the ranks of Australia up until playing for Australian under-19s a long time ago. Where I actually captained the Australian side, and both my parents are from Lancashire, and I wanted to play county cricket and state cricket for Lancashire and New South Wales. And Lancashire knew that I was interested in doing so. And once I'd played for Australian under-19s, they invited me over for a trial, which went very well. And they then asked me to qualify. Back in those days, I had to qualify for 4 years. And during that time, I was playing with a guy called Mark Crawley, who's John Crawley's brother. And he was also at Oxford. And he said, look, if you're going to be playing cricket for 4 years, second team cricket for 4 years, maybe I can speak to somebody and we can talk about going to Oxford. And that opportunity came, and I managed to do 2 years there. He's saying intelligent. I think I was very good at photocopy and plagiarism, but that's a different story altogether. But it was a very good experience, and I thoroughly enjoyed the time there. Met some great people, and going to one of the best universities in the world was an experience that I, really, really flourished and enjoyed.
Yes, and I fully understand the whole being an expert in plagiarism, because that's what basically got me through my university experience as well. So I'm with you there, my friend. So when you were playing under-19s cricket for Australia and you were the captain, so what year was that approximately? Was that in the late 80s, was it? Sorry if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, no, that's fine. The grey hairs are showing. I think it was 89. I think it's 89, 90. I came over in 90 with Lancashire, for Lancashire. So guys I played with were Justin Langer, Greg Blewett. The guys, interesting, I played against England. So I played against John Crawley, Darren Gough, Dominic Cork. Those type of guys. So I think that was probably a majority of them. But I then went to the West Indies that following summer and played under 20s for Australia again. And Shane Warne was on that trip. So I've played with some decent guys who were very young and before they made their name in the game.
So when you moved to England and you played for Oxford University, and then you got your move to Lancashire in 1993. So do you remember your debut for Lancashire?
Well, my first class debut was against Oxford. In fact, I came over in 1991. I think it was 90 I came over after doing that 89. So that's the 4 year qualification period. So my first class debut was against Oxford in 90, but my championship debut was against Surrey at Old Trafford. That was the other good thing about playing for Oxford was I was playing against first class sides without the pressure of championship or one-day cricket.
Sure.
So I had a really good look at some of the best players in the country with less pressure, I suppose. So it was a really good upbringing to get into county cricket. So yeah, I played that first year. Things went pretty well, and then I suppose the rest was a little bit of history at Lancashire.
Yeah. So you say you made your debut against Surrey, your county championship debut against Surrey, and you had obviously, I don't know if you played against players like Martin in your debut, if there's people like Martin Bicknell who was bowling against you. So obviously he was one of the legends of the game, especially for Surrey. So when you made your first county championship debut, how difficult was it? So you had an expectation of what county cricket would be. Was it as difficult as you thought? Because I know you said you had some sort of experience playing for Oxford, but obviously now playing for Lancashire, was it overwhelming, or did you handle the pressure well, in your opinion?
I think when I was that young, you have no fear of playing. So you were young and confident and maybe even arrogant. All those type of things come into play, and you just played. And you played without fear. Didn't matter who was playing against you. And I was very lucky. I mean, the side at Lancashire was pretty formidable. I was saying John Crawley again sort of features a lot in my sort of early cricketing life, but playing with him and Neil Fairbrother, Wasim Akram, Warren Hegg, there was so Ian Austin character-wise, Graham Lloyd. It was such a good team, and to be a part of that and be a part of that group that was so dominant in one-day cricket, you were made feel very welcome very early, and once you did well and became part of the team, awesome time.
Yes, because during the 90s, Lancashire won 8 white ball trophies, which is amazing, absolutely amazing. And this is just some of the players you mentioned, and you forgot like people like Mike Atherton and so on. So, do you know, have all those stars you played with in the 90s with Lancashire, who would you say was the best cricketer you played with when you played for Lancashire?
I think, without doubt, Wasim Akram. I mean, he was just what he could do with bat and ball was phenomenal. And they talk about the reverse swing and the allegations of what they did, but the skill he had and the way he could change the game within moments was incredible. Backed up with a very very humble, really nice guy, great guy to be with. I mean, it was just a real class act.
Would you go as far as saying Wasim Akram is up there with the greatest ever, if not the greatest ever? Because you obviously had bowlers like Dennis Lilly, Malcolm Marshall, Glenn McGrath. Would you say Wasim Akram's better than them, or would you say he's not as good as them, in your opinion?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's really hard to compare. I mean, he's probably the best left-arm bowler we've ever seen.
Doesn't mean that many successful ones.
Yeah, I mean, so it's really hard to compare. And I mean, him and Waqar was such a potent force, but then you'd go down the Lilly and Thompson, the Ambrose and Walsh, all those sort of partnerships always had something different. And Wasim and Waqar had pure pace, and the way they swung the ball late was just incredible. And as a pair, they were just really hard work. And to have one of them play for Lancashire, and for him to be able to be a friend and be someone you play with and learn from was just such a great experience.
Oh, I can imagine. So, whilst you were at Lancashire, you're one of a few cricketers to actually score a triple century. So tell us about that innings.
Okay. Took a long time.
Yeah.
It's really hard to sort of explain. I've always, as a opening batsman, I've always sort of prided myself on temperament. So I've been able to bat long periods of time. and I was just coming back from injury, so I'd done quite a lot of fitness work. I think I played a test match. I think I'm right in thinking this. I played a test match, my first one, and broke my finger. And I was coming back from that, and I felt I was in pretty good nick, and two, I'd done a lot of fitness work around that to allow me to battle long time. So in today's world, I battled for about a day and 3/4, which is probably unheard of now in terms of strike rates. But I was very lucky to equal the record with Bob Simpson at Old Trafford for the highest score there.
Yes. Because I read another stat, actually. I think you've got what you talk about accumulating the crease. I think you scored one of your hundreds, but it took you 454 minutes, I believe. That's one of the stats I read online. Yeah, definitely. Probably like the Lancashire version of Rahul Dravid, the Wall.
Well, maybe not. I mean, that's a very nice compliment to say, but
yes.
I remember that game because we played Derbyshire at Blackpool, and they got a big score, and we then got bowled out for 80.
Oh wow.
And subsequently followed on. So yeah, I had to drop anchor, so to speak, and just stick in there. So I suppose it's a need must situation, but I think it is probably one of the longest hundreds of all time.
Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. So, whilst you were at Lancashire, you made your Test debut for England in 1995 against the West Indies. During that time, the West Indies obviously had the famous duo of Courtney Walsh and Curley Ambrose. So tell us about your experiences in your debut series against the West Indies.
Well, you say series. I think it was only 2 matches. As I said to you, I broke my finger in the first innings at Edgbaston. But what it was then, before you played the match, the night before, you had a team meal. And I was last to sit down, so I sat next to Richard Illingworth, the chairman of selectors.
Sure.
And I don't think anyone else wanted to sit next to him anyway, so I got the short straw, the new boy. So he said to me, do you know, have you come across any of these bowlers? Do you know what they do? And I said, well, I've obviously seen them in county cricket. So he said, and Alex Stewart was nearby. And he said, Alex, tell Jason about, these bowlers. And I said, well, okay. So Alex said, well, there's Curley Ambrose, and he's about 6'8", and he's going to bowl quite quickly, and he's going to make the ball bounce. So it's probably going to bounce around between waist and shoulder height most of the time. And he said, then there's Courtney Walsh, and he's quite tall as well. He bowls quite quick, and he's going to make the ball bounce between probably hip and shoulder height. And then when they're done, you're probably going to have a bit of, I think it was Kenny Benjamin, and he comes in and he bowls quite quickly and makes it bounce. So I had this sort of repercussion of these 4 fast bowlers coming at me, and pretty unrelenting. And I think, when you think about a test match and the word test, that's really what it is. And it is a pretty unrelenting situation when you've got an attack of the West Indies quality coming at you, or any attack really coming at you at test level. So we get to game day, and Richard Illingworth had thought to leave grass on the wicket against West Indies because the ball would carry. And that was in, I think, 95. You'll have to correct me on date, sorry. And in this particular test match, the second ball Courtney bowl was back of a length, and it went over the keeper's head and hit the side screen. One bounce and hit the side screen.
Wow.
And I was batting 6, and I was in before lunch to do that.
Okay.
To give you sort of an experience, you all the nerves are going as you walk out. They call your name, the crowd cheer, which is a crowd that, when you've played current championship cricket with, a couple of people, a dog, and you come out to this massive cheer, and Edgbaston is a very vocal test ground anyway. You feel great. You feel invincible. Needless to say, after a couple of balls later, I broke my finger, and I didn't feel so invincible. But, I got off the mark, did all the things I needed to do. But unfortunately, it was a pretty disastrous test match in terms of result. And subsequently, I broke my finger. So I was out for a few weeks. And Nick Knight came in and got a few runs. And Then he broke his finger, and then I came in for the last test. So that's sort of how it ran for the first period.
That was very common amongst any opposition against the West Indies during those times. So who was it who actually broke your finger? Was it Curley Ambrose or Courtney Walsh, if you recall?
Yeah, it was Courtney.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was really, really strange. I'd never had many injuries before all that.
Sure.
And that was the first one I broke. But subsequently, I then kept breaking my fingers. So I got the nickname Pop-it-on fingers or biscuit fingers from it. Needless to say, today it snowed, and going outside, all the breaks sort of you feel them in your hands. So sort of reminds you of the times that it all happened.
So, do you know, during your international experience, to have those West Indies bowlers that you've faced, which bowler would you have said was the best one that you faced?
Oh, it's tough. I mean, Curley and Courtney are pretty similar. Courtney's very different. I have to say, the way he bowls at you at a different angle. Curley, you know it's going to come. And again, you've just got to try and see them out. But I probably didn't have a good enough run at it to really know, or bat long enough to really know, to have the opportunity to do so. I batted, after that period of time, I played another test match in South Africa after an 8 all. And batted some time against South Africa on a pretty placid pitch. So that was a nice opportunity to sort of get a feel for it, get used to the level, because I suppose that's what the big thing you've got to understand is that, you know, you talked about the jump from university cricket to championship cricket to test cricket's a huge jump, and to try and get into that intensity level, to try and get into that sort of way of playing, it's got to take a little bit of time. And looking back, maybe I didn't give myself that time, or maybe I didn't get the opportunity to get that time in the middle. Whereas now I think the players get a really good run at it to see where they're at.
Yes, because now obviously you have the central contracts, and they see it more as an exclusive club rather than just people going in and out. And obviously listening to commentators on television, that's one of the things that they wish they had back in the 90s compared to now. There is a bit unfortunate for cricketers of your era. So in 1998, you moved to Nottinghamshire. You played for them until 2007. So what initially brought about that move from Lancashire to Nottinghamshire?
So I'd captained the Australian 19s, as I said before. I'd also captained Oxford University. And when you play with such a good team like Lancashire for that period of time, I wanted the opportunity to captain. And at that stage, we had 8 first-class captains in the team. So
wow. Okay.
I thought it was going to be a bit difficult. The other thing which happened was the old coach, Alan Ormond, who brought me over from Australia, moved to Nottingham. And he said, look, if you ever think you're moving, we'd be interested. And so I was coming out of contract, had the conversation with him, met the people around the ground, looked at, there was the new Radcliffe Road stand was going to be built. The side was very young, and there was going to be an opportunity to captain at some stage. So that's why I moved. I loved being in Lancashire. That was a great team, great place to be, but I felt I needed a change, and I felt I needed a change with responsibility, I suppose, is what I was looking for, which Nottinghamshire provided for me.
Would you say you're more of a natural leader then, or is leadership something that's not natural to you? Because I know you're saying that you wanted to challenge yourself, but would you say you're a natural leader?
It's something that you either aspire to or not. It's a really interesting question. I don't know whether I'm a natural leader or not. Do all people follow you in terms of what you do? I feel as though I'm a player that goes out and gives my all, and as you say, I'll go on bat long periods of time and stick it out for the team. In the same way, I'll play one-day cricket, and I'll play for the team I'm not a stats-driven person. Never really have been. I just care about winning games and the team winning games. So that's probably my style of leadership, and was my style of leadership. In saying that, I've at the back end of Nottinghamshire, I had a really great opportunity stepping down as captain, and Stephen Fleming coming in, who at that stage was regarded as the world's best Test captain. And he was certainly a lot different to the way I captain. And you've got to pick up these things from different people. And he was a brilliant leader, brilliant person to guide Nottinghamshire at that time, which was starting to really develop to a good side. He really took charge and did a great job.
I think you'd done quite very well actually with Nottinghamshire. I myself, unfortunately, I'm not a Nottinghamshire fan. However, you did win the Test Championship, I believe, in 2005. And I think that was around during the time you played for Nottinghamshire, you played with players like Chris Cairns, Chris Reed, and so on. And so you played with a number of interesting characters, but one in particular is Kevin Pietersen. And this is one of those, it shows your leadership qualities where, you put your foot down. So I know there was a bit of an incident with you and Kevin Pietersen. If you would mind elaborating on it, Jason.
Sure. So Kevin came to us through our manager at the time, Clive Rice.
Okay.
Kevin had done really well at Cannock in the leagues. It's pretty well documented the reason why he came over from South Africa, which is a real bonus for us in terms of Nottinghamshire, because we had a person who was driven to play and really play well and succeed. And the one thing about Kevin is in terms of when he talks about his cricket and the way he was a cricketer, he was a very confident person, and he was very adamant and driven to become a good England player, if not the best England player. That's what he was sort of driven to do so. But with that became a real focus for him, which allowed and sort of disrupted the team harmony because of that drive. And things that I think if we both look at it in terms of things I did and things he did, we'd probably both have regrets on that. Obviously, my parting gesture to him is pretty well documented about, a bat going out the window. But apart from that, I mean, in terms of the ins and outs of it, it was a very difficult time because Kevin was trying to get out of his contract. And he had still had a contract with us. As I say, I think we probably both have regrets the way we did that, and the way we probably conducted ourselves with each other. As I say, I think if I had a bit of guidance from the Stephen Flemings of the world and whoever else, I might have done things differently. But I'd like to hope and think that maybe Kevin might have done things differently as well to do that. So what happened was, from that incident, Kevin went to the England A tour to India with Rod Marsh and the academy. What happened? I'd got a suspension for it, which I was very, and a fine suspension, which is, quite right and just. And things still weren't progressing with the contracts for Kevin. So I suggested to the coach, and should I give Kevin a call and see if we can have a coffee or a chat about this? So got hold of Kevin's mobile. I rang him. Nothing came through, and I messaged him just saying, "Look, should we grab a coffee and talk about how maybe we can work about next season?" And that was when he was at the academy, I think, before the tour in November. And I'm trying to recall a bit of this. Sorry, it's a bit a while ago.
That's okay.
But anyway, I got pulled in again by the club and said, "Look, Kevin's lawyers have been in contact. We haven't finalised the contract or how it's going to operate. Due to my actions, it was a little bit untenable for me to be captain." I said, "Well, I'm happy to step down, but also his lawyers had also put an injunction on me not to
Oh wow. Okay.
not to speak to him or go within 20 meters of him as well. So it was pretty full on stuff. The only problem is that Kevin was with the National Academy at Loughborough, and we were doing pre-season training at Loughborough. So I think at some stage it was always going to be pretty hard that I couldn't really be 20 meters apart from him or away from him because we were both sort of training in the same complex.
Sure.
Anyway, lo and behold, he did the India tour. The A tour to India was very, very successful. Came back and had a pretty good year with Nottinghamshire, and I was still captain. So I think people sort of missed that out, that even though we'd had the bust up or whatever else wants to call it, the bat throwing, the whatever, he still came back and played. He still was we were both hopefully very professional about our roles and jobs within the club. And we won the second division championship doing so, with the likes of not only Kevin but Stuart McGill.
I actually spoke to Stuart McGill 2 weeks ago. Excellent. Okay. So any kids watching this show, just for the benefit of this interview, Mr. Gallian does not condone throwing bats or kits out of this window.
Absolutely. Please don't do that.
Of course.
I've learned from my mistakes, and it still comes to haunt me like today.
It's a great story, however, not good. But excellent. So, do you know, during your time with Nottinghamshire, who do you say is the best cricketer you played with at that time?
Well, you've mentioned Chris Cairns, fantastic cricketer. Paul Franks came through the ranks. You know, he was a Nottingham boy who came through and did very, very well. Chris Reed, we signed as a real youngster from Gloucester, who couldn't compete with Jack Russell at Gloucestershire, and you know, he has become a living legend now of Nottinghamshire.
Yes.
Samit Patel as well. I mean, geez, his longevity has been great. I mean, it's really hard to put it all down. I think the success that Stephen Fleming brought and the culture Stephen Fleming brought to the club is probably still continuing now, actually, amongst the older players and what they bring to the party. Because I know Paul Franks and Chris Reed are back in the coaching staff and helping out at the club, so they'll be bringing that sort of culture back into the club. So yeah, it's really hard to put it down to one person or the best player. I would think if I had to nail it down, I'd probably say in terms of the influence of the club would be Stephen Fleming. Just the way he went about things and the way he conducted himself as a player and as a captain and as a person.
Yes, it's amazing how much influence he's actually had on international cricket worldwide. Even with the Chennai Super Kings, I believe he's been the coach there for about 10 or 11 odd years, and he's won 3 IPL titles with the Chennai Super Kings. And yes, he is a very influential character and a leader. So then in 2008, when towards the end you finished with Nottinghamshire, and then you moved to Essex, where you signed a 2-year deal. Yeah. So you're in your late 30s at the time. So tell me what it was like playing for Essex, because I believe at the time they had quite a young and up-and-coming squad. So you were one of the more experienced.
Well, I think I can tell you now how it all sort of came about. Okay. So when I was at Nottinghamshire, they offered me. I got to an age where they said, "Look, we can only offer you a 1-year deal." I said, "Look, I want 2, and then I'll be done. And I can help the youngsters out and do what you need me to do, or whatever." They were still adamant about 1, so I put myself on the market, and there was Ronnie Irani, who's chairman of cricket at Essex now, and was still playing it actually.
Oh, wow.
And Ronnie's a good friend back in the under-19 days. And he said, "Look, don't worry about it, Gal. We'll sort this out. We'll be putting a bid in for you, and we'll put some pressure on Nottinghamshire to get you the 2-year deal you want." I said, "Oh, okay, that's lovely, Ronnie. You don't have to do that." He said, "No, I want to do that. We want it, whatever." So as time progressed, when you get offered, when that happens, you get a 21-day cooling off period where nothing happens, and then you can make a decision of which way you want to go. So I had 2 clubs involved in that. So it was Essex, there was another club, and Nottinghamshire. And during that period, Andy Flower had been selected to be the England coach, who was still playing. Darren Goff had broken down injury-wise, and Ronnie had broken down injury-wise. So Essex had lost basically 3 really senior players. And Paul Grayson was the coach at the time. He rang up and said, I know what Ronnie's done. However, we actually need you. We do need you to come and play because we've now lost all these players, and we need some experience on the field, and we think you'd be the perfect fit for it. So I suppose other factors involved is my wife was from this sort of area, and we decided that, you know, this would be my sort of last move, and I would try and settle in the area as well. And so I took the gamble and took the 2-year deal with Essex, and yeah, very, very pleased I had done, because when you do move clubs, I feel as though 3 clubs has been a lot for me in terms of moving. I never thought I'd be moving as much as I did, but I suppose that's sort of the way the modern game was going and sort of is now. But very pleased that I'd taken that opportunity to come to Essex, and a fresh start and fresh opportunity. And yeah, Essex have again been very, very good to myself and to my family, and I'm still here.
Excellent. Well, they've certainly been doing well over the last couple of years. I believe they won the Bob Willis Trophy this year and the County Championship last year. So yes, they've been doing very, very well. So nowadays, obviously, the game mainly revolves a lot around T20 cricket. So we've got the IPL, we've got the Big Bash. Right now, as we speak, we've got the Sri Lankan Premier League as well. So what do you make of T20 cricket and the influence it's had in the current game?
It's amazing. I was part of the first guys that played the first 2020 game, and it was a bit of a joke, to be honest with you. And I remember Stewie McGill just saying, let's just go out there and have a good time, guys. You know, let's just have fun, whatever. He might have mentioned that, I don't know. And it's now become billion dollar, you know, global sort of sport that is it's just taken over the world. And amazing that the ECB started it thinking that would be a good marketing tool to bring a new type of client in. Well, it's certainly done that in tenfold. And it's great because it's engaging the youngsters to play and wanting to play. I'm not a traditionalist in terms of you know, what back in my day, this happened and that happens. And I'm seeing it now with the kids I coach, is they all want to learn how to do these shots, and you've got to teach them how to play it, because you want to engage them as well to do so and play these formats. You know, you talk about the lockdown, and we've tried lots of different formats at school. We've tried the 100 ball, we've tried the last man stands, we've done the T20, we've tried the T10, and this sort of variety, fast game, action-packed game has really taken off and engaged the young, which is so important that if they start enjoying that type of cricket, they might start looking for more types of cricket, and that's the end of it, really. You're never going to stop. Hopefully, you're never going to stop things like the Ashes when England play Australia, and really nice or really good Test matches when India come and the crowds they bring, and hopefully, you know, Pakistan and the West Indies, the type of crowds that come and watch in England is really special. And hopefully, when we get past all this situation now that we're in now, that the crowds will be back and enjoying their cricket.
I fully agree. In relation to T20 cricket, I believe that's probably one of that is the only format, actually, I believe, that may be able to influence countries like the USA, China, and so on to actually play more cricket and get involved in cricket. I don't know if you've heard the news today, but the USA cricket team have managed to convince Corey Anderson from New Zealand to actually represent the USA. So, and I actually read up about this. So the USA have put together some sort of scheme. It's a 3-year, they give you citizenship, some 3-year citizen. If you represent them for 3 years, you'll get citizenship there. And there's a 6-figure salary as well. So they get paid quite handsomely, and also with the lure of citizenship. So I think Liam Plunkett's the next one in line who might be going down that route as well. So it would be nice to see other countries getting involved in cricket, not just the same ones, because obviously right now we've got England, India, Australia. Then we've got the issues in South Africa with the whole selection thing, and I think there's going to be more issues with that. Not issues, but like some issues where some people might go abroad or so on. And then India and Pakistan don't play together. So yes, it would be nice to have all these other countries getting involved a lot more. So what do you think T20 is the main format to get these countries involved in cricket?
Yeah, I think if you want these countries involved, it's got to become an Olympic sport. I think if it gets into the Olympics, you will then have countries, especially like China, will throw serious money at it and will develop players very quickly and facilities and everything else that goes with it. So I think that's probably the key. If it gets into as an Olympic sport, then you'll see I think then you'll see some serious money thrown at it, and hopefully developing countries coming into play, as I say, like China. That's probably the way. I suppose that's where we're looking to go. Could be T10, could be 100 ball. I don't know, but there's certainly some opportunities now, I think, for the Olympics to get involved with this.
Certainly. Hopefully that is the case. I don't imagine it being the next one, but there was again, I read an article earlier. I believe there's meetings already in place for potentially some sort of cricket being involved in the 2028 Olympics. So hopefully that is the case. So just moving forward, so just going into England. So England recently have been very successful in white ball cricket. The Test team, however, has been quite inconsistent. So with their Test series coming up against South Africa, what do you think England? I don't know if you've been keeping up with England with the international cricket recently, but if so, what do you think England need to do to address to make sure that they are successful in South Africa in the Test series? Because they've had problems with the middle order a little bit, opening batting. You just had basically Joe Root and Ben Stokes were the mainstays, and everyone else. There's so much chopping and changing. So what do you think they need to do to be successful in this Test series?
I think playing away from home is always difficult. Conditions away from home and now behind closed doors makes it probably a little bit tougher for the players, but I think they're getting used to that now. I think you're right. I think there needs to be a consistency amongst the team, amongst selection. I mean, the bowlers, the fast bowlers in particular, there's probably a rotational period. So you can understand that, certainly with the more senior bowlers. But they seem to have got a very good opening partnership going. 3 is obviously a spot which needs filling. And then, as you say, the middle order with the Root and Stokes scenario is pretty solid as well. So there are gaps to fill, but with that comes opportunities. So hopefully those opportunities could be taken. I mean, Pope being injured, I think, is a big blow to England. But again, it's more opportunities for others to come in and hopefully take that chance. And I suppose that's what you're trying to create. John.
Is there anyone in particular in county cricket that we're probably not too aware of at the moment that you think could make a real impact in international cricket in the foreseeable future?
Oh, tough one. There is a young lad who was at Felsted who's just hit the county championship called Jordan Cox. He made a big in the Bob Willis Trophy this year. Talented player. So I think he's one to look out for. Probably certainly more one-day cricket than Test cricket, but exciting young player. And if he keeps progressing the way he should, I hope he gets opportunities. But it's first things first for him. And I think he's got to consolidate himself at championship level. Pope for me is very. I really like the way he plays, the style he plays, and hopefully he can come back from injury quickly and get back into the team because he looks a real asset. Apart from that, I haven't really seen too much. I mean, Sibley's interesting. I think he has that dogmatic approach, which I think his technique will only get better playing at that level. As talked about, hopefully, the more he can play at test level, the better he can become and work it out. So, he certainly has a very good temperament like Alistair Cook. And, if he can score nearly as, maybe even half the runs of Alistair, then would be very good.
Excellent. So, Jason, I have a few quick-fire questions for you. Firstly, so who's the better batsman, Virat Kohli or Sachin Tendulkar?
Well, I'll say Sachin.
Sachin, okay. Who do you say is better, Murli or Shane Warne?
Shane Warne, obviously Australian background.
Fair enough. I've got a question for you about who's the best captain you played for, but you did mention Stephen Fleming, so is that the case?
Yeah, he's in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
This another one might be a bit controversial, so I do apologise. When the Ashes is on, who do you actually support?
Whoever wins.
Whoever wins. Very diplomatic. Good answer. Okay. And who is your favourite football team, if you do follow football?
Ooh. I'm sorry to say it's Man United. I was a Red when I was at Lancashire, so sorry to say that.
God. Okay.
Not blue.
How unfortunate. Sorry.
I know.
I'm a Liverpool fan.
Well, you've done very well. I'm not a diehard, so don't.
Oh, that's it.
I've really enjoyed the way they've played.
Give you a pass. And finally, I wanted to ask you, what's the best 11 that you've played with or against? 1 to 11.
Oh my goodness.
Put you on the spot a little bit. So do apologize.
Yeah, put me on the spot a little bit. Okay, let's try and work one out. I'll probably get slated if anyone hears all this. So I'll go Slater to open. Hayden. Lara 3. Tendulkar 4. Where are we? 5 now. Ooh. I still like Graham Hick at 5, I think. 6, Neil Fairbrother. 7, I'm starting to get into the all-rounders. Wazim probably going to have to feature there. 8, Shane Warne. Then we're starting to get to see him as are we? So 9, 10, 11. I'm looking at play with or against McGrath, Yunus, and Curley.
That is a very, very impressive team. Very, very impressive. Excellent. Well, thank you very, very much for your time, Jason. It was absolutely wonderful speaking to you. And hopefully I do get the opportunity to speak to you again. And all the best for the future. And I hope you have a lovely Christmas and New Year.
Thank you. And have a good Christmas yourself. Lovely speaking to you.
Excellent. Thank you.